Hey, what's happening, everybody? Maurice back again with another video, and I hope that you all have a new year. I don't know what I'll be releasing this, so if it's, I guess it'll be close enough to January 1st. So Happy New Year. I hope that 2023 is a blessing to you and that some amazing things can happen for you and all that good stuff. I wish you the best. So today, since we're ending the new year, going into the next, um, it's still kind of quiet on Fantasy Flight's front about what the future of Marvel Champions is going to be. And there will be a spoiler at the end of the in this video for the end of the Mutant Genesis campaign. So if you don't want to hear about it or see about it, I advise you to keep it moving because I'm going to spoil the ending of it because I think it's very important going into this next cycle or two maybe of what the X-Men cycle is going to look like. So I'll go ahead and talk about what I'm anticipating that this next cycle or two is going to look like for Marvel Champions, both on the heroes and villains side of it, with the campaigns and still trying to figure out what that scenario pack is going to look like. But yeah, I'll go ahead and hop into it. So if you have beaten the Mutant Genesis campaign or have gotten through the book or just read through, the little comic book that comes with each of the different expansions, then after you defeat Magneto and Asteroid M crashes and you win the game, Senator Kelly meets up with Mr. Sinister. So if you are somebody who pay attention to the X-Men, this dude ain't no joke. Like he's not the big bad for X-Men, but he's relatively close to it. So I'm excited to see Mr. Sinister getting some love. We've seen him in Cyclops's Nemesis set, so this will be interesting to see what they end up doing with him from a design standpoint. But with seeing him, that makes me think there will be two more cycles of X-Men. So I think, looking back at the typical cadence of the different cycles, we normally get somewhere between 6 to 8 heroes, a scenario pack, an expansion pack, and then a big box expansion, and then it rinses and repeats after that, right? Another 6 to 8 heroes, scenario pack, big box expansion, rinse and repeat, right? So um, we've pretty much completed that cycle now that we know that Rogue and Gambit is coming out in February. I don't think that they'll be released alongside the next box. It haven't even been announced yet, so I'm anticipating the next big box expansion coming out somewhere between March and April. Um, or they may just surprise us and let us know it's coming out in February, and we only got a month to prepare for it. But with that being said, I think Mr. Sinister will be the big bad for that campaign box, and I think with the introduction of some X Force cards, well, I guess technically is one with Forge, with him being both X Men, X Force, and he can ready a X Men or X Force um, upgrade, or I think you can go grab it or whatever it is that happens with him. But I think we're going to be introduced to some X Force, so I think this next cycle will be a kind of a medley of X Men and X Force, and I think some of the heroes we'll see in this one. I think we're going to see some Deadpool. I think we potentially may see Cable. We might see Forge as a hero. I think that is possible that we could get some of those X Men that are still relatively popular that we didn't get to see in this current cycle, which could be the likes of Iceman, Nightcrawler, Beast, Jubilee. I think would be a good one. Psylocke. And on the X Force side, I think we might see Deadpool, Cable, and maybe somebody like Domino. Some of the more well-known X Force members. So that's what I'm anticipating, at least from the hero side. And then with the villains, if we're assuming, or I guess if I'm assuming that Mr. Sinister is the big bad, I think this opens up some interesting options for who could fill out the rest of that box, right? So I think that if he's the big bad that we are paying attention to at the end of the campaign, this could open up with the likes of somebody like Omega Red. I think we could see Donald Pierce and the Reavers. We got to see we got to see a bit of the Reavers with one of the modular sets. I can't remember if it came with. I don't remember who it came with, but with the Reavers, we got to see Donald Pierce, Wade Cole, and all of them. Right. I think that this could either set up Donald Pierce as the main villain, with the Reavers being a part of his encounter set, or this could be similar to what we've seen with the Wrecking Crew, um, and the Sinister Six, where it's multiple uh, villains in the game that you'll be interacting with that's just trying to hunt you down. I think that this could work either way for Donald Pierce, where if it's just him with the rest of the Reavers being in the encounter set, or him alone with the Reavers as the main villains for that one scenario. And you know, if you've seen Logan, then he was a really good well, Donald Pierce was a really good villain in that movie, right? So I think that this is a good opportunity to kind of shed some light on him, and he could be part of coming from the future, coming into the to the present. And I'll talk more about that later on, because I think that that's going to be a part of that final cycle for X Men, X Force. But Donald Pierce and the Reavers is my second option, and then Lady Deathstrike. You know that she's pretty hardcore when it comes to the X Men. She don't play, and I think that she'll be a good one now that we have Wolverine introduced in the game. Uh, we've seen Sabretooth, who's a common one against them, and I think Lady Deathstrike, I think is an easy pick for this next one. She's well known in the Marvel universe, as well as I think that she could be an interesting have an interesting mechanic similar to Wolverine, with the ferocity that she would bring to the table. And then the last couple, I will go with. So I don't. This may not go over as well, but I think that it would be an interesting pick, which would be like a Jean Grey Scott Summers clone, where you can have it similar to Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive from the Mad Titan's Shadow. Um, if you're not too familiar with Mr. Sinister, he's not opposing to cloning people, and I think that'd be interesting to have, you know, kind of a villain set that would reflect uh, Jean Grey and Cyclops, you know, and they could be one particular scenario that could be interesting, right? Especially if Mr. Sinister is the big bad, and then you know Mr. Sinister to top it off. So I think that those would be my five picks for that expansion. And once again, I mentioned some of the heroes earlier on who I think would be amazing to see in that particular set. So let me know what y'all think of that. If you think that they're going to take another direction, I'd be excited to hear what you have to say about it. And then that would lead me into the final cycle of the year. I think that once we get Rogue and Gambit, we'll get that next box, which I think will feature Mr. Sinister as the big bad, and then we'll have some scenario pack, and then go into uh, the final one, which I think will end with X Men and X Force again, which I think will be Apocalypse. And I think that you can also substitute Galactus in it, but I don't know it's going to get that crazy. But I think Apocalypse would be an amazing final big bad, with the Four Horsemen as his other villains to round out the box. I think that it'd be interesting to see like a Professor X Magneto hero set going into this one. I think this would be a good time to also introduce Bishop, Beast, Silver Surfer, Emma Frost, Psylocke, you know, enter whatever X Men that we haven't spoken of. You know, we can do a Cannonball or Havoc. You know, you can just get fun with the X Men because there are just so many of them, right? And there are so many allies that have been introduced to X Men. I mean, Magic would be a good one. You know, now that the New Mutants movie is out, you know, that'd be super interesting to see that. So I think that that would be the icing on the cake for the X Men cycle, to have Apocalypse come through with the Four Horsemen. Um, you know, as I mentioned earlier about the time travel, you know, in the story there could be a few X Force members coming back to the present from the future, like Bishop and Cable. That's like, yo, we messed up and we lost. We need y'all to change whatever is going on because whatever happened that y'all did here, it didn't work in the past and we got smoked. So I think that that would be a cool way to introduce Apocalypse, and we know Apocalypse is privy to time travel. So he's been in the mix with Kang before. He's been in the mix with some other people. So this will be an interesting way for um for Bishop and Cable to come back in time to try to direct the X-Men or the mutants to help try to defeat Apocalypse in one way or another. And maybe they're grabbing people to come into the future to help fight Apocalypse. And I think that that could lead to some very interesting modular sets. With the scenario pack for that, I'm still I was thinking about this for a while because I think that for X-Men we've covered a lot of the more well-known villains for it. I think that I was trying to think of somebody as interesting, like how Mojo came through with Spiral and Magog, where Mojo, if you didn't watch or if you don't read the comics or watch X-Men Evolution, then you're probably not too familiar with them. I think Spiral was an easy uh, pick because if you didn't know her from X-Men, then you probably know her from Marvel versus Capcom too, right? So maybe Shuma Gorath would be an interesting one to come through against the X-Men. But yeah, I think there's a lot of options there. But yeah, I think that seeing Apocalypse would be a nice icing to the cake to round out X-Men. And as Marvel Champions continue to go forward, because I think that this game has continually picked up steam in terms of the amount of people that's playing this game, the amount of content creators have jumped up exponentially, right? So I think that there's a lot of interest that's revolving around this game. So it's going to continue going forward. So yeah, with Mr. Sinister, my beliefs, I think that this is going to go another two cycles similarly to the Infinity Saga where we had Rise of Red Skull, uh, Mad Titan Shadow. Um, no, it was Rise of Red Skull, Galaxy's Most Wanted, Mad Titan Shadow. I think we're getting the same thing with the X Men and X Force, and I think that that's amazing. And I think that having a full year of X Men would be kind of cool. Like, I don't think anybody is really going to complain about it. I have my thoughts on not seeing Daredevil or Punisher yet. I think there's time for that in 2024. I think that that'll be a good introduction after all of this to go into maybe Fantastic Four. Bring it back down to the street level and not these like extremely ridiculously sized campaigns and stories. Keep it more street level where maybe we see out in 2024, we get to see some Moon Knight, get to see some Daredevil and Punisher, get to see Luke Cage and Jessica Jones and Iron Fist and Shang-Chi and White Tiger. We've already have them as allies in the game. I think it would be a relatively these would be easy pickings, right? To kind of bring it back to a street level. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, whatever they go with, I end up buying it anyway. So, yeah, let me know what y'all think about that. If this is the direction that they may go, or if you have some ideas on where you think that they should go, um, or at or at least where you think it makes sense for them to go, I'm all ears. So that's what I got. I think that we will see two more cycles. I think that Mr. Sinister will be the big bad for the next one, along with some medley of villains. I just named off some that just made sense to me if it's going to be Mr. Sinister, but they could introduce more eclectic or comic specific villains, which is be fine. I think that as long as the designs on these villains and heroes are good, I think people will be satisfied. And then after him, we'll have a scenario pack, and then we'll go into Apocalypse. Or maybe Galactus could be that scenario pack, right? So, and you could release Silver Surfer right beside him. I think that'd be dope. But that's where I'm at with it. So let me know what y'all think about some of the predictions I have, or if you have any predictions. I'd love to hear what you have to say. I think that this has been the best year for Marvel Champions. I can release a whole nother video on that if y'all want to hear that. But I think it's relatively obvious that it's the best year, but maybe I gotta back my words up and prove it to the community that this was the best year. There's just been so much that have come out for this game that have just been stellar. So in the year off with X-Men was just a beautiful move. But yeah, I can explain that in another video. But thank you for your time. Yeah, let me know what y'all think about the predictions I have, or if you have any predictions that maybe are more obvious that I missed. I'll be more than happy to hear what you have to say. But until then, see y'all in the next video. Have a wonderful year, and I appreciate y'all as always. Take it easy.